Hey, this is Anney, and welcome to Stuff I Never Told You, production of iHeartRadio. And today, Samantha is out sick, but I am very, very happy to be joined by friend of the show, contributor Joey. Welcome back, Joey.
Hello, it's me. I'm Samantha McVey for the next hour, however long we end up recording. But yeah, thanks for having me, Anney. Always fun to be on the show.
Yes, I actually just spoke to Samantha before this, and she's got a lost voice, a very croaky voice. She was like, tell Joey, I'm so sad I'll miss it. But we both know it would have been mostly the two of you talking.
Yeah. I mean, Samantha, wherever you are, where you're listening, you are missed, of course. So
yes.
Sad that you're not here. But
yes. Even if she isn't on our same nerd level, she's always got fun commentary. So we do miss her, but we
need somebody in the room to like bring us back to earth, you know?
Yeah, somebody be like, no one knows what you're talking about.
Nobody knows what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes. So hopefully we don't go too off the rails in this.
Yeah.
But yes, we did want to have you back because we recently had you on after you went to FlameCon, which was a convention that was largely focused on LGBTQ plus people and creators. And in there, of course, we got to talking because both of us have a lot of thoughts about conventions. And you mentioned you were going to New York Comic-Con in October. And we were like, well, would love to have you back after that and hear what it was all about. So here we are.
Yes, I was on earlier this year for FlameCon. And yeah, of course, always happy to talk all of the nerd things with Anney. But yeah, I went to New York Comic Con this past, I think by the time this episode comes out, it'll be November. But yes, I did go to New York Comic Con earlier this month. It is currently still October while we're recording this. This is now the 4th year that I've gone. I love it. I thought it was a fun time. I do, as I'm going to get into, have a couple of things I didn't love this year, or sort of, trends where I think things are going that it's not great. But also lots of fun things. I cosplayed 3 days in a row, which was an experience. I think I slept for like a whole day after it was over. But yeah, I guess I'll start with like the fun, happy stuff because who doesn't love that? First of all, again, it is October now as we're recording this. Anney off mic, we were talking about some of our Halloween plans. And I did realize mid-October that this month, I literally every single weekend this month, I was at some point on public transportation in full costume going to something. So like at the beginning of the month, I went to the Ren Fair and like that was super fun. That was great. And then this was Comic-Con was the second week. And then since then, it's kind of been like Halloween party, another Halloween party. And I love Halloween, so I'm not complaining. But this is a fun time to be somebody that likes dressing up in costumes and also lives in a very crowded city where I'm always just seeing people and people are seeing me. Although I will say one of my favorite things, I don't go to like Anime Con or whatever, so that's usually the one that I point to where I love those weekends and just seeing like people in random costumes that I don't understand. Like I'm like, go you. I love that. That is my favorite thing. So I hope that I'm that person for somebody. Is what I'm saying. But anyway, so yes, I did go 3 days this year. This is the first year that I've tried doing 3 days instead of just 2. I cosplayed all 3 days. I made the really good decision. This was not intentional. This kind of happened by accident, but I'm going to pretend that it was a conscious decision. I started with my hardest costume, like the most like intense to wear on the first day. And then the last day I had my like t-shirt and jeans costume that was like very little effort. Would recommend doing that if you are going to a convention where you are dressing up multiple days. If you're somebody who, again, like unlike me, actually plans ahead, because this sort of ended up happening by accident. But I'm very, very grateful that it worked out that way because I was very tired by Sunday. So the first day I dressed up as Wiccan from Young Avengers, Agatha All Along, etc. Marvel comics, all of that. I also dressed up as him back in August for FlameCon. He's one of my favorite characters. I'm sure if you've heard me on the show, you've heard me talk about how much I love this character. Anney, you know that I originally was going to dress up as the Winter Soldier, and then I procrastinated on making the metal arm, which is like the majority of the costume. So that didn't end up happening. But I have all the materials, so maybe at some point in the future, I did tell myself, I was like, maybe I'll just save this for like Halloween weekend. I'll wear it one of the days. I have yet to make any progress on making this thing. So one day I will have a metal arm. I don't, that might be in like 2 years, but we'll see. But yeah, Wiccan was fun. That was, again, most annoying costume to wear. It is just a like tight bodysuit and a cape. I didn't have any pockets. That was rough.
Yep.
But you know what? It was a fun time. Felt good. Looked good.
Looked great. A cosign.
Thank you. Thank you, Anney. I was just saying, Anney and Samantha definitely got some pictures for me and a couple other iHeart people that I ran into there. And then day 2, I dressed up as Vi from Arcane. I did have the realization that day that this is the first time I've ever cosplayed a girl at a convention, like a female character, period, which I will get into a little bit more later about some of that. It wasn't terrible. I could have had a worse experience. It was fun, though. This is the time and place to get into it. She is one of those characters that I'm like, to me, I'm still like, that's gender. Like, this is the gender that I want. But that was a fun time. I had a jacket for that, so I did have and I was wearing pants, so I had pockets. That was great. Nice. I don't know if I'm ever going the no pockets route again. That was rough.
Yeah. I
was really nervous about the wig because I usually I'll work around curly haired brunette characters, which luckily there's a lot of them. But yeah, no, this was the first time I did like the wig. That actually was fine. I did have a friend lend me a like fake nose piercing. That was terrible. I don't know. I am one of those, I've had many people be like, I thought you had a nose piercing. I have the persona of somebody who I guess people assume that I have a nose piercing. I understand that. I can never. It would annoy me way too much. And then day 3, I dressed as Nico D'Angelo from Percy Jackson. Again, this was my easiest costume. If you're familiar with the series, he wears just like a big jacket and a t-shirt and jeans, and that was great. Also that day, I had 2 friends that were organizing a like unofficial meetup. There was an official meetup last year that they had helped organize, and then Comic-Con this year decided not to greenlight it. So it was an unofficial one. I'm going to get into later some of my issues with, I think, some of the organizing stuff and why wasn't, I think this maybe was a symptom of some other organizational issues from the convention. But that was super fun. And I think because it was like a smaller kind of group, it still was a pretty big turnout for that meetup, but it was a smaller group. So like, people, I don't know. It's nice to be able to, like, that was one where I got some like bracelets and keychains from people that were just doing like little trades and like giveaways and stuff. Kind of similar to Anney, I know, like also huge Swiftie. If you that's kind of one of the big Swiftie things is like the bracelets, the beaded bracelets. So also got some of those, which was fun. It's cool to see that kind of become part of like larger fandom culture, and I think especially sort of younger fandom cultures. Percy Jackson, obviously. I'm Gen Z. I grew up with those books. Those were my favorite books when I was a kid. I would say most people I know that are fans of it are a couple years older than me and younger. But yeah, so it was a fun time. I personally, I always say Comic-Con is fun because you get to see, everybody's different neurotic tendencies come out, which for some people means people are very anxious and don't love crowds. I personally get distracted by shiny things very easily, so I spend a lot of it being like, oh, look, very cool cosplay. I'm going to go run after this person and ask for a photo. So thank you to everybody who had to deal with me those 3 days. But some of my favorite costumes that I saw were, there was somebody on Friday, whoever you were, there was somebody, I kept seeing them and I kept trying to be like, oh my God, I want a picture. And then I lost her. She was dressed up as like the Lady Gaga meat dress.
Yeah.
Like she had the meat dress on. And I was like, I'm obsessed. I would not think to do that at Comic-Con, but I wouldn't even think to do that as a costume at this point. But I love it. Iconic, beautiful.
Yeah.
There's always some fun Star Wars crossovers. There was a Barbie Mandalorian.
Oh, of course.
Anney, I'm seeing you nodding. I'm seeing you nodding.
Yeah.
There was an Anna from Frozen, like Han Solo mashup. That was really cute. I loved that.
That's great.
One of my favorite like costumes that I saw this year that was new was if anybody's seen Sinners, there were a bunch of the like Smokestack twins.
Mm-hmm.
I love that movie. That was like my favorite movie I saw this year. That was super fun. Shout out, there was one duo that I was like talking to for like 10 minutes and I was like, I need to get a picture of them because that was the day that I was dressed as Vi. And I was like, oh yeah, because she's like Haley Seinfeld, that'll be funny. And then of course, like I left and my friend I was with was like, weren't you gonna ask for a picture? And I was like, oh no, wait, yeah, that was, we got distracted talking about something completely different. Oh no.
Yep.
Crazy how that happens.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess some more just like trends that I saw, because I also think it's interesting to just see like what is popular, what are people cosplaying as. Of course, there's always a lot of like, you know, it is Comic-Con. There's all the comic book staples. There's a lot of X-Men, a lot of Jean Greys this year. I saw a lot of Jean Greys, a lot of Teen Titans groups, lots of Fantastic Four. Makes sense. The movie came out this year. Same with like Superman and a lot of the like newer version of Supergirl too. Of course, always lots of Spider-Man. Lots of Scarlet Witches. There were a lot of Obi-Wan Kenobi specifically.
Right.
Like there was a lot of Star Wars cosplays, but particularly like the younger Obi-Wan Kenobi, which I love Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
He's like, let's go. But yeah, I thought that was interesting.
That was on when I did my Dragon Con.
It's interesting that was Dragon Con too.
Roundup. I just saw so many Obi-Wan Kenobis and I loved it. It was fantastic. There was one that I was like, you look exactly like it. And he had so many ribbons. Dragon Con gives out ribbons. He had like so many on his badge. And I saw him get into some kind of tea drinking duel with Darth Maul. I don't know. But there were a lot of Obi-Wans. Something's going on in the Obi-Wan zeitgeist.
He just like, I guess that's like, he's the Spider-Man character of Star Wars, where like you're always going to see him everywhere. If anybody is an Obi-Wan Kenobi cosplayer that wants to like tell me why there's so many still to this, like, and again, I'm not complaining. Great character, I get it. But I'm just like, wow, there's so much Star Wars content, and I'm like every 5 minutes I'm seeing an Obi-Wan Kenobi walk by me.
Mm-hmm.
So that was fun. Lots of K-pop demon hunters.
Yep.
Surprise, surprise. Back to Star Wars. I did see some Andor cosplays. The character I probably saw the most was Clea, which I thought was really cool. There was a moment where I almost was going to go with Clea, and I could not figure out how to do the hair correctly. So I didn't do that. But shout out to everybody. Big fan of that show, obviously, on Stuff Mom Never Told You. Love her character specifically, so that was super fun. Saw a couple of Mon Mothmas too. It was really cool, I think, for Andor to see, like, specifically a lot of the female characters getting so much love and, like, getting so much more attention that I think you see in a lot of these franchises usually.
Yeah. I wanted to see one good Mon Mothma dance, and I did. And I was thrilled.
I didn't see any Mon Mothma dance. I did. There was one that I kept walking by though, and every time, like I like there were like 3 times that I had walked by the same person, and every time like the song would start playing in my head, and I was like stuck in my. That was also definitely like at the point of the day where I had like one like whiskey Coke and was just like, yeah, let's go.
Let's go. Yeah.
Honestly, you know what? Next time, if they want something, they should have had a big dance circle with that. What was going on? Missed opportunity.
Definitely.
A couple cosplays I was surprised to see. There were quite a few Lord of the Rings ones, which of course always a classic, but I was sort of like, wow, there hasn't really been new Lord of the Rings content recently. But nice. Love that. I saw a few, not many, but more than I expected, Harry Potter cosplays, which that I thought was interesting. Obviously, it's still a very popular series, but like, you know, things have happened where, you know, I personally wouldn't make the decision to cosplay one of those characters. I think it's something like this. I did talk to a friend of mine about this who also, like, the two of us were both really big Harry Potter fans back in the day and have kind of moved away from the series. And he pointed out something interesting, which I didn't even really think of, but he was like, yeah, there's been a bunch of cosplays, but I have not seen like any merch. Like when you walk around Artist Alley, I was like, I don't remember seeing like a single like piece of Harry Potter fan art that was being sold. So that to me, I think maybe is more of a sign that like J.K. Rowling has fallen out of favor. Obviously, like, you know, people are going to cosplay whatever. There is something about like, I don't know. I think it is complicated, the idea of like, whether you're cosplaying a thing, are you contributing to that thing making money or whatever? I think it's complicated. I think I can see both sides of it. I think it depends on how you go about it. But that being said, I think the fact that like nobody was trying to make money off of this series is probably a more damning fact than the fact that there were a couple people dressed as like, you know, random Hogwarts students. I did see a really good Bellatrix cosplay. So shout out to her. Again, I don't know if that's a decision that I would make, but the cosplay was great. Another one that I was kind of surprised to see, there were quite a few Peggy Carters, which again, I love this character, but I was sort of like, wow, I'm surprised to see that like this character is held up so well. I think her last appearance was like, what, like 6 years ago? I don't know. Like I thought that was interesting, but again, this was a character that like I loved when I was a teenager and those movies were coming out. Also quite a few Captain Americas, which again, of course, a popular character, not super surprising. I did think it was interesting that I think of the Avengers, that was probably the one I saw the most. And I think, again, given the fact that the Steve Rogers Captain America character hasn't really made any appearances lately, like it was interesting to me that that is a character that I saw more than maybe like other Avengers that are still in movies and stuff like that. And, you know, given political stuff, I don't know. It was also kind of interesting. Captain America is one of those characters to me. I'm a big Captain America fan. I know a lot of people that I think like align with me politically that also really love those movies and love that character. And I find it really interesting that like, even with all the messiness happening, that's still a character people are drawn to.
Mm-hmm. He's a very Superman-esque character.
He is. I think it is similar. And I was thinking about also the like response people were having to the Superman movie. And it reminded me a lot of, I think, the discourse around like Steve Rogers Captain America as a character. Because it was very like, look, it's this like wholesome masculinity that's like about caring for people and protecting people, which I think is interesting. I think it's interesting that like that is a trope of like male superhero character that has held up. And again, like I love Superman. I love Captain America. I also am somebody that is like, you know, drawn to that kind of character, feels very inspired by that type of character. There's obviously like good and a bad side to that.
Mm-hmm.
I think, yeah, again, I think just like, given the state of things, it was sort of like, you know what, it's nice to see that that is still something that it's like the thing that really stands out to people is the idea of like helping people and whatever and all these. It's not necessarily like the political jingoism of it all.
Yeah.
I did see a lot of Peacemaker cosplays too, actually, on the other side of that. I did see a lot of Peacemakers, a lot of vigilantes, which that was fun. All the vigilante ones were great. He's such a fun character. Yeah, I don't know. Anney, that's interesting to compare it to. So it sounds like Dragon Con was similar sort of mix of characters.
Oh, yes. Okay. So I'll go over some. I feel like Dragon Con is so, I mean, I go as Disco Luke. It's so niche. So there are like the big ones. There are the classics. But I was going over my like list before we did this of just like some things that stood out to me. Dragon Con does, and I know you're going to talk about this later. I'd be curious because I've only been to Comic-Con once and I was there for work, so I didn't really get to explore it as much. But they do like huge meetups, and it'll be the most random thing. So like the blow up dinosaurs thing is, I mean, just hundreds. But I did see, some of this is biased because you're looking for things that you recognize. I did see not one, but two Abby and Joel confrontations from Last of Us 2.
Oh my! Wait a minute. I mean, there were a lot of Last of Us ones too. That of course relevant, but yeah, how did that work? What do you mean confrontations?
Like they've like played it out. Like she came at him with a golf club. It was fantastic.
Oh my god. I love when people do like my favorite ones are always the like weird obscure or like I said at the top, like when people do like a Barbie Mandalorian or
I love a creative pun.
Yeah, again, like the Lady Gaga one really
the ones you see like that you're like, oh, I know exactly what that is, but I never would have thought.
I would have never thought of that. Yeah, like I know what that is, but I never would have thought of that. I love it. There was a lot of, with The Last of Us, there was a lot of like mushroom people. That was very cool. I'm really bad at just basic makeup, so I have so much respect for people that can do like the all out special effects stuff. Very cool. On the note of, I think having the kind of bias blinders on, I did also see a lot of Arcane cosplays. Although I talked to a couple people afterwards too that I was like, I don't know if it was just because I was dressed as this thing and I was looking for people that were also dressed as this thing, but there was a lot of Arcane. That was my day that one of the things that I love about cosplaying at these kind of things is like getting to just like stop and take pictures with people. I think it's like microdosing being a celebrity for a day. And so that was super fun. So yeah, shout out to everybody. I like kept forgetting to ask people to send me pictures afterwards. So if there's anyone out there that happens to have a picture of me from that, please send it my way. But that was super fun. It's people are so creative and it's so cool seeing the stuff. For the Arcane ones too, there were a bunch of people that had like the weapons from the show that they'd like made, and I love that stuff. I like, if I had the time, I would have done the full like. I wanted to make her gloves, and I ran out of time, but it's okay. Next time.
Yes.
Yeah. But on your point about the meetups too, that is also something that happens at New York Comic Con. I mentioned earlier, my friends organized this like unofficial Percy Jackson one. Something I think is interesting is there usually are like the big ones that like there's a big DC one, there's a big Marvel one, there's a big Star Wars one. There's like a specific section they're usually at. There usually are a couple of smaller ones too. I think though it sounds like this year the actual official like Comic-Con wasn't really sponsoring those. It was like people doing their own thing. Again, my friends had done this Percy Jackson one. I had a couple friends that were going to like a Critical Role meetup. I think on the last day, I can't remember which day it was specifically, but and that was like another one where it was like somebody had just decided to organize it on their own. I found out later a friend of a friend had also organized like an Arcane one the Saturday, and I did not hear about it till later, but that I thought was interesting. I'm going to get a bit more into this, but I did have some issues, I think, with the organization from Comic-Con this time. And I think the fact that there was kind of a blind spot for these meetups that was being filled by people like putting their own kind of like time and effort and energy into organizing things, like that to me, I was sort of like, that's not great. Because again, like last year, my friends had organized this meetup and they got like, hey, we'll like put you on the calendar and you'll be in this space at this specific time. And like they end up getting comp tickets, which was very nice. But this time it kind of was just like, okay, you're on your own. And it was like, great. So now it's on us to like find a space and like make sure nobody else like takes that space. And also, it is like putting time and labor into organizing this thing, but then it is like not really being supported by Comic-Con, but also it's drawing people to Comic-Con. So I don't know. That just seems a little icky to me. Which brings me to some of my complaints this year. I think the main two problems were, one, tickets got really expensive, and two, the crowd. It was very, very crowded this year. And you're probably sitting there thinking like, no, it's going to be expensive and there's going to be a ton of people. I know. I went into this like, I've gone before. I know it's super crowded. I think a lot of the issues this year were like very easily preventable, or at least could have been like alleviated, starting with the cost. So for some reason, they decided to raise the ticket prices like a month before the event. And at this point, like they were almost sold out. Like they didn't need to do this. I think at this point they actually had sold too many tickets. Again, I think going back to the crowd point, like maybe they should have like sold a little less tickets. I don't know, whatever. Like maybe there's something they should have done to have less people there to begin with. But yeah, they sent out this email like a month before that was like, make sure you're getting your tickets now because they're about to go up. And like, so now, and they were raising them, they were like with the intention of next year, they're going to be this cost. They're $90 a day now, which is a lot of money for basically, you're going to go shopping, right? Like you're going to this thing to spend more money. I don't think it needs to be that expensive. I'm going to get back to why I don't think so later. But the other issue then is the crowd, right? Like if tickets cost this much, the other side of the problem then too is like there's like too many people. This has been going on for like a long time. Like New York Comic Con has been going on for a long time. At this point, it's been in the same convention center. There were a couple things this year that were different. And I think they made it a little bit more difficult. Because again, like I've gone years past where it has been very crowded. I was sort of mentally prepared for that. I get there Friday and I was like, this is what Saturday crowd. Like Saturday is usually terrible. Friday was what Saturday was usually like. Saturday, I could not move around for most of it. The main issue, which this sort of threw me off when I got there, and I saw a lot of people complaining about this. There was an entire section that usually is open to the public that they had blocked off for like VIP guests and people from press and industry panelists and content creators. I don't think it's a bad idea to have a lounge for these people. Like obviously, especially if you're working at the convention, like you should, have a space to decompress, whatever. The space that they had blocked off was way too big. It was like an entire like half of a floor. This also usually is the space that they blocked off specifically is usually where like cosplay repair is and like the med station and stuff like that, like stuff that's important for people to know where it is. And there was some confusion about like people not knowing where to go for that. They moved it all to the basement, and the basement is already pretty crowded because that's where like the food court is. And, that's where a lot of the meetups are and stuff like that. So again, I don't think it was the best decision. It was a very big amount of space that I don't think they needed to block off that. I think that was part of why the main floor ended up feeling so crowded, was there just was less spaces for people to go. And this brings me to talking about content creators. And this is, I'm going to tread carefully here. I want to start off by just like defining what I mean when I say content creators, because I think it is a very vague term. And there's kind of two definitions that I have in mind when I'm talking about content creators. I think most people, when they hear content creators, they think like some kid with an iPhone and like maybe a bad ring light camera making stuff and putting it on TikTok, which, yes, that's some people. It also could mean there are people that like make entire careers out of this. And that means oftentimes they have like a whole camera crew set up. Maybe not like a huge like film set type thing, but it'll be like a couple people filming them, some actual like nice cameras, lighting, all of that. And so immediately after the weekend was over, I saw a lot of chatter online with people complaining about content creators and how they were sort of unfairly prioritized. And I really agree with this. I think that this was a huge problem this year. Some of it was coming from people that were content creators and belonging to this former group of like more or less amateurs that are making content like for fun. It's not their main source of income. There was one guy that I found who made a video that I think like he did a very good job of like talking through what I was talking about with this section that was blocked off. And he was like, yeah, no, I thought it was really weird. I was allowed in this space, but it was like way too much space for the amount of people in like, the people it was for versus the people in the entire convention center. Which like kudos to him for acknowledging that. Like, I think, there were other people I saw online that got very defensive right away. And I was sort of like, yo, like, this is not, nobody is attacking you specifically. They're talking about the fact that like the rest of us like had nowhere to sit. My one quick note is not to be shady about this guy. Again, no disrespect to him. I when he's doing good for him. I also am somebody that like, I make very similar content. I probably would call myself a content creator in some definitions of the word. I looked at his actual account and yes, he had a significant following. I think for somebody who like was given access to, again, like this like VIP treatment and having a comp ticket. He didn't specify whether it was like totally comped or just discounted, but like spending less money on the ticket. I was sort of surprised that somebody with that following was able to get that. And that also showed to me, like, again, going back to this idea of tickets being so expensive for like your average Joe. Yeah, if you have like, if they're being very liberal about what they're calling a content creator and like somebody with under 100K followers on TikTok, which yes, that might seem like a lot, but when you really think about like some of the follower counts of these people, it's not that much. Like, yeah, if you have all of these people that you're comping tickets for, you're giving them discounted tickets, like no wonder you're not making as much money, and then you want to raise the ticket prices for the rest of us, which just doesn't seem like a good business model. I mean, yeah, it's like you're getting that free advertisement, but at the same time, it's like there's only so much that people are going to be willing to pay to go to these things. I already heard a bunch of people that were sort of like, I'm probably not going to go next year. This is probably my last year because it just got so expensive this year. And, you know, they are sort of facing a problem right now about not making enough money to keep the event going. So again, to me, I'm not a business person, but I see this and I'm sort of like, it seems like there's a very clear problem here. And yeah, maybe again, when people are saying, hey, they're putting a lot of emphasis on these content creators and giving preferential treatment to these content creators, that is frustrating. That makes me less likely to want to go to this kind of thing. Like, I get it. That makes sense. And that doesn't seem like a good business model. That being said, I don't think like this group of content creators is necessarily the worst problem. Again, like no hate to these people. I think like content creators get a lot of hate that is not necessarily necessary. I think the biggest problem were, again, these people that they're making content because it's like their job, it's their career, it's what they make money off of. Listen, I work in media. I get it. It is hard to like be under pressure and have a short period of time where you need to create content to go out to a big audience that needs to look a certain way, whatever. That being said, it does not give you permission to be an asshole. And some of the behavior that I saw from these people was like abhorrent. Like it was just really bad. So the way that the like convention center is set up, there's like this giant lobby area. There were a lot of like camera setups that people had in this lobby area. Again, they had this whole section that was blocked off for them. I don't know why that was not being utilized more. There were a lot of people on this main lobby floor and then on the main stage floor that were like taking up a lot of space to film content. That is where people are trying to walk in and out. People are going to walk into your shots. I saw people getting yelled at. I saw people getting like pushed off camera. The third day that I was there, I was walking to the bathroom. And again, this is a very crowded area. So I was sort of trying to like make my way around people. I had a guy, like one of the crew guys for one of these creators, like grab my arm and like pull me out of a shot, which I don't think that's okay. Like, I'm not gonna lie. It was like a little, and I said grab, I mean like this dude like pulled me. Like I was like, whoa, like you could have just said like, hey, can you also, I'm like, hey, you could cut that out of the shot. It's not that hard. Just start over again. That's the kind of thing that I think was most frustrating to me because, again, I have a level of sympathy where I'm like, I get you're trying to make content because that's what your job is. But like, keep in mind, you were going into a very crowded space where people paid a lot of money to be here. And I don't know. I think it makes sense that people were frustrated that like these sort of people were be able to get away with this kind of behavior. And there really was no there was no accountability. There was no like, and it was also clear that they were like getting that preferential treatment. So I think it makes sense that people were frustrated. I was frustrated. So I don't know what the solution is. I don't know if there just needs to be like clear guidelines of like what people can and can't do. If they're going to keep this like space blocked off for content creators, maybe there just needs to be more rules about like, you need to be filming content here. You can't. The other thing was too, going back to the meetups, like there were people that were like taking up these big sections. It was also raining that whole weekend. So there were a lot more people inside trying to take pictures as opposed to outside. But it's like, everybody's trying to take pictures. Everybody's in their costume. Everybody's here to like have fun. You can't be like blocking out like prime Instagram real estate the entire like 3-hour period that I don't know. It just, there was a lot of behavior that I think like it felt like rude and it felt disingenuous to like why people want to go to these events. It felt like it definitely like it, and I can see from the, again, like Comic-Con's perspective, they're like, great, free advertising. We want to prioritize that. But also think about the fact that it's like the people that you're making money from, the people that are paying you to be there, they need to be having a good time too. Like, it is a supply and demand issue, and like, you're going to start losing customers if you let that slide for the sake of again, like a bunch of TikTokers. Not saying that to TikTokers. Again, no disrespect, but like, we're all here for the same thing. Let people enjoy this. Like, don't just turn it into shocking. Comic-Con of all things can turn into a capitalist hellscape. Who would have thought?
Surprise, surprise. Is it still at the
surprise
Javits Center?
Javits Center. Yeah. Which, if you've been there, it's a huge space. Fun story. I actually, the first time that I went to that convention center was getting my COVID-19 shot, because they had like the whole like National Guard set up there. So every year it's kind of funny where I'm like, oh yeah, I remember like this entire place being just like filled with like military dudes, and now it's Captain America, I guess.
Yeah, sure. I have a video. I think I mentioned this last time we talked, but when I was there, I did a walkthrough video of the whole thing dressed as Winter Soldier. And it was content that we posted. And I'm just trying to envision, because that was a long time ago. And I'm just trying to envision, because I feel like the media space I was in was pretty small, and it was upstairs. And then there was one that was downstairs, and that was where you did interviews. And they had like the backdrop, and you know, the media would just go and interview this poor person over and over again, but same questions, I'm sure, every time. But it didn't feel that big. But it's also kind of an interesting setup, because it's long. It's like the hallway, I remember being like a long walk to get to the artist alley, and then to get to where you want to go buy stuff. It's kind of a like interesting setup, I suppose.
Yeah. It is a weird setup. And again, I mean, I think like going to what you're saying, obviously, A, it is always very crowded, and B, like, this has been a thing. I do think there should be like a space for content creators. I do think there should be a space for staff, for press, whatever. I think the way that it was just set up this time was so poorly done. That was the problem. I think it was a issue of scale, and it is like, these are all connected. If you're going to have more space blocked off for content creators, you're going to have less space for the general public. People are going to be upset about the fact that they're all kind of, because again, I'm used to it being crowded, especially Saturday. It is usually like very, very crowded. That was the worst I've ever seen it. Like, there were points on Saturday where like I literally was just like, I cannot move. Like, I'm stuck on the show floor, and I'm just waiting for there to be an opening for me to be able to walk out. So I don't know. And again, I think it is worth like pointing out the fact that it was something that I saw so many complaints about. It's like, clearly there was something different this year. That was frustrating. Yeah, because again, I mean, like, the show floor, obviously super crowded as well. I think that also, and I think this is something that, who knows what the solution is, wasn't the best organized. It was a little bit hard to find things. I think they tried to spread out some of the things that they knew. People, like, there was the big like Marvel setup and the big DC setup that were on like opposite sides. And there was like all these different companies and stuff. That was kind of funny. It was sort of like, we have to separate them, and they're gonna fight. I don't know. Shout out to friend of the pod, Gare from It Could Happen Here, is also doing an episode about Comic-Con for that. Very excited to hear that. I think it's gonna be much more critical and in depth. But something they pointed out when we were walking around on Sunday that I thought was interesting was they were like, there's a lot of the stuff on the show floor is like Instagram. It's for Instagram. Like, it's so you can take the picture to post on Instagram later. Which, I was like, that's interesting. I do kind of wish there was a little bit more like interactive things. That being said, I did also drag them through the entire avatar setup to get a picture with Appa, so that I could put that on Instagram later. So I gotta get it. I can't complain too much, because I did also definitely feed into the Instagramification of everything. So yeah, I think a lot. My main issue is just that I think a lot of the specific issues about the way the space was organized, that was preventable. And that's something that I hope. And again, if they're going to be charging so much for it next year, that needs to be fixed. Otherwise, you're going to drive people away. It's not fun if you literally cannot do anything because you can't move around.
Right. Well, surprise, surprise, listeners, it turns out that things did go off the rails without Samantha here. And Joey and I have a lot more to say about the ways that cons have progressed, the ways they're backsliding in some areas, and how that reflects on our society. So much more to say, in fact, that we're splitting this into 2 parts, even though it was originally supposed to just be one episode. So stay tuned for part 2. In the meantime, you can check out Joey online at Pat Not Pratt on Instagram, Hot Topic Dad on TikTok, and you can see their work on podcasts like Outlaws and There Are No Girls on the Internet with friend of the show Bridget Todd, and on other episodes on this very show. So please keep an ear out for that and check those things out if you haven't already. If you would like to contact us, you can. Our email is hello@stuffInevertoldyou.com. We're on Blue Sky at Mobstep Podcast, and we're on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff I Never Told You. We're also on YouTube. We have new merchandise at Cotton Bureau, and we have a book you can get wherever you get your books. Thanks as always to our super producer, Christina, executive producer, Myra, and yes, contributor, Joey. And thanks to you for listening. Stuff I Never Told You is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.